This is my 2024 Ram TRX Final Edition in Delmonico Red. In this video, I'll dive into some of the changes I've made, what I've learned about it over the past 8 months, and talk a bit about how it compares to its biggest rival, the Ford Raptor R. Hiding behind this sea of plastic is the 6.2 liter supercharged V8. One thing that I'm surprised they did not do for 2024 is give this Hellcat engine a little bit more power. We know that the Raptor R for 24 got a boost to 720 horsepower, but this engine still has the same 702 horsepower and 650 pound-feet of torque. Yes, it's still plenty powerful. I love the supercharger whine, and the exhaust actually sounds really good. My only complaint with it is you do get a bit of a drone on the interstate. Now, all of the Hellcat engines come with the 8-speed automatic. I think the 8-speed does a great job of finding the right gear. It has a 4.7 to 1 first gear, so off the line it feels like it has plenty of power. These trucks come with a full float Dana 60 rear axle that has a 355 ring and pinion ratio. One of the reasons I want to kind of get into that a little bit is because these trucks come with a Borg-Warner 4813 transfer case. And the way essentially it works is you don't have a two-wheel drive feature in this. You just have the 4Auto, which is in the auto mode is essentially giving you 60% rear power, 40% front power, and then as you go through the different TRX modes, whether that's Sand or Baja, it's recalibrating it. Now, the only time it's 50-50, which is literally just splitting the power correctly like a traditional transfer case would, is when it's in 4 low. Now, why I kind of want to put a little bit of time into the transfer case is because on other Ram models since 2019, you've actually had a 4811, which is very similar, if not identical, to the 4813. The big difference between those two transfer cases is that the 4811 can be put in two-wheel drive. It still has that 4Auto feature, but it also has the ability so you can drive down the road in two-wheel drive. Now, if you want your Ram TRX to be in two-wheel drive, you can do it, but you're going to have to get an aftermarket module from Z Automotive. It's called the Tazer DT, and it allows you to put the truck in what they call forced rear-wheel drive. Now, I want to tell you my experience with doing that, and if you're kind of on the fence about, oh, I might get this as well, some things to consider. Number one, putting it in forced rear-wheel drive, I don't believe is harming the transfer case, just based off of the fact that the 4811, which is basically identical to the 4813, has the ability to go in two-wheel drive. Essentially, it's just disconnecting, releasing that clutch pack, and you're putting all of the power to the rear axle. Again, I just mentioned it has a Dana 60 full float rear, so I don't think you're going to hurt that. The weird things about putting it in forced-wheel drive, at least I have found, has been it doesn't really benefit the truck. On road, the steering isn't drastically lighter, so I don't think that that's enough of a selling point to say, oh, you definitely want to do that. It does not help with the fuel economy. I have not seen a measurable impact there. And I've had it do some weird stuff a few times where it's been in forced rear-wheel drive, and I've had it, you know, let's say I'm going out for a longer trip, been driving around for 30 minutes, and then I'll like pull into a driveway, and it feels like the steering suddenly is gotten really heavy when I'm turning, and that makes me think that suddenly something's telling it, oh man, we need to lock this front end in when it's not supposed to. So I've actually emailed Z Automotive about this and said, hey, it's doing this, and I'm hoping maybe there's a firmware update, maybe there's something about 24s that are different. I do think this is going to be an interesting thing to watch, because with the RHO coming out, so the new Ram that's basically a TRX but now has the Hurricane V6 in it, or I'm sorry, inline 6 twin turbo, it's going to have the same 4813 transfer case that you're not going to have two-wheel drive. And I think that's going to be a bigger deal for those trucks because they don't make the same power that these do, and I think that you might actually be able to benefit from a fuel economy boost by doing the forced rear-wheel drive on that truck. I don't know. This is all speculation. So I think we're going to see more time spent trying to figure that out. Now, I know I've just basically mentioned Z Automotive a few times, and I do want to talk about, I did put their Tazer DT on here. If you're not familiar with how these work, they basically plug in underneath the dash of your truck. It's not the most enjoyable thing to plug in and get to, but that's really all you have to do is you plug it in, you marry the device to the vehicle. Once it's married, you can go through both live and I guess we'll call it unlive features. The things that drew me to this module that cost about 329 bucks. First off, I wanted to be able to turn off when you open the door and you still have the key in the pocket where it honks. I wanted to eliminate that, and it allows you to do that with an easy push of a button. The next thing, and this is completely cosmetic, is I wanted to be able to turn the daytime running lights to all amber, just like how it looks. Thought it would be neat. Tazer gives you the ability to do that. And really the last thing has more to do with how the infotainment system works on this. It's got a massive screen, that's great, but the accessing the 360 camera, which works very well, is a little clunky when you're like pulling in places and stuff. And this will actually, when I go to pull in, let's say pull into a parking spot instead of back in, or if I'm getting close to something, with the Tazer, it'll automatically turn on the 360 camera when the sensor up front senses you're close to something, which I think is great. You also have the ability to map your camera to the steering wheel. So with one press of the button on your steering wheel, you can have your 360 camera so you're not reaching over and searching for it. As you may have noticed, another modification I made to the truck was to swap out the factory tires and wheels. While there was nothing wrong with the original setup, I was simply looking to personalize the truck more to my liking. The wheel you see is a 323 gloss bronze method in an 18x9. It weighs 30 pounds, so it's a good bit lighter than the factory wheel. It has 5.44 inches of back spacing with a positive 12 millimeter offset. For comparison, the factory wheel has a positive 19 millimeter, so the new wheel only pokes out roughly 1/4 of an inch more than the stock one. While I did consider moving up to a 37-inch tall tire, to do it right will require a bit more work that I'm ready to tackle at the moment. So to give the truck a more fitting and aggressive look, I picked up a set of 35 by 1250 R18 Nitto trail grapplers. Did I need a mud terrain radial on this truck? No, but I wanted a more aggressive looking tire, as the stock ones to me look like overgrown golf cart Turfmaster tires. I've driven on enough trail grapplers in the past to know that they would roll smooth and have minimal road noise, so I knew exactly what I was getting myself into. I ordered everything from my local off-road shop, Low Range 4x4 here in Wilmington, North Carolina, and the crew were nice enough to let me document the swap. Now, I absolutely love the styling on this truck. It reminds me of a Gen 1 Raptor. Giant fender flares, definitely has a very unique look to it. I hate that it shares the same front end as the Ram Rebel. I wish they'd done something unique for the TRX and now the RHO, but that is what it is. Overall, I think these trucks are very identifiable. I did pull off the TRX stickers off the back, mainly because they look like they were installed crooked from the factory, and that drove me crazy. So I ditched them, and I kind of like the look without them. Maybe I put RHO stickers on the back just to mess with people. But the only other thing that I did is I put Auto Saver, I think 88 is what it's called, which is a very inexpensive trifold bed cover that I got off of Amazon. We were getting ready to go on a trip. I just wanted to make sure we had something to keep the luggage dry. I think I paid 170 bucks for it shipped. I haven't had an issue. It's not staining with anything. It doesn't keep dust out very well, but it does a pretty good job of keeping water out, so I'll give it a thumbs up for that. Okay, so let's talk drivability, and I'm sure the first thing everybody wants to know, and there's been plenty of YouTube guys out there, how does the power feel? And it is absolutely incredible. The power to me feels very linear. It doesn't surprise you as much. The Raptor R kind of comes on strong, and then really almost like a two-stroke power band comes in and kind of will surprise you. It doesn't feel as linear as this, and I prefer this power band overall. I mean, just hammering it down from fourth gear, drops to second. I mean, it's just nuts how fast it will get up. Now I think like most of these trucks, you end up getting to a point where you actually probably have more engine than you do suspension travel. And that's a good thing to talk about on this truck. So this thing uses the Bilsteins, and I think you've got around 13 inches of front travel and 14 inches of rear, which is about the same as the Ford Raptor R with 37s. So they're very comparable in suspension overall numbers. The big difference is the suspension on the Raptor out of the gate for 23 is way better, in my opinion, in terms of taking up the small imperfections in the road. It just feels smoother. It's just a better riding truck. Now, I have not driven a 24 Raptor R yet. They have even gone one step further with the new Fox, where you actually have rebound valving, which I really think will help that truck, because it can feel at times where it's a little bouncy, and I think dialing that rebound in is going to make a big difference. This truck is considerably heavier, I think about 500 pounds than a Raptor. And in my experience, it doesn't really feel that much heavier. It's not drastic where you just feel like it's portly. I've taken this thing on the beach, and it actually, in my opinion, drove better on the sand than the Raptor did. It soaks up the imperfections a lot better, which is a benefit of the weight. I don't think the weight is a huge deal in this truck overall. I just think the suspension doesn't seem like it communicates as well as it could with the spring rate. There just seems to be something off there. It's kind of floaty. That doesn't really bother me, but you do feel a lot more imperfections in the road with this suspension over the Raptor. I don't know. It's hard for me to just nail it, and I've gone through all the different suspension modes on this thing, and none of them really take away that like initial impact that you feel. So I don't love that. Off-road at speed, the suspension actually feels great. And again, it comes back to, I think the weight really plays into keeping this thing settled. It has plenty of suspension. I don't feel like for what I'm doing, I'm not trying to go 100 miles an hour. I think it does a really good job at absorbing what's underneath you. Obviously, dropping down air pressure will help. In something like this, you're not really going to want to drop down below 18 psi if you're out there getting after it. But it really feels super balanced. Nothing on it feels like I need more of this and more of that. I just don't love the on-road. Now, that being said, I'm kind of being nitpicky because I've been able to go back and forth with the Gen 3 Raptor. Compared to a factory 1500, like any other factory 1500, this truck rides phenomenal. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm literally just trying to say, apples to apples, I think the Raptor is a little bit better. Seat comfort wise, the way these things bolster you in, like it's a great truck. I love the seating positions that you have in this truck. I feel like they really focused on driver comfort, which is fantastic. I love the digital instrumentation panel here. It's all digital. You can have your full navigation here, all your gauges for cooling and things like that. So if you're off-road, you can keep an eye on all of that stuff. Just huge fan. I think they did a phenomenal job with that. There's only a few little things about this truck that aren't great, and really the small imperfections of how it rides down the road with the like chatter bumps and stuff like that, I would say are my biggest complaint or concern. But power wise, I love it. It does have a little bit more cab noise than I think the Gen 3 Raptor does, and especially it's more noticeable when you're on the interstate and you get that exhaust drone, and you got a little bit of kind of hum from the tires. Although the tires is probably gonna be hard to pick up from the audio. They're not very loud. It's especially for how aggressive they are. I'm running factory recommended 38 psi pressure. That feels fine. It looks like I've got a pretty flat pattern for the actual tire itself, so all of that's good. At the end of the day, the TRX more than lives up to the hype. It's sort of ironic that with the TRX going away, the Ford Raptor R now takes the honor of being the only V8 desert-inspired super truck you can purchase new. I'll be diving more into how the TRX and Raptor R platforms compare in an upcoming video. So if you have any questions on either, be sure to let me know in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you on the trail soon. Thanks for sticking around to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider subscribing to the Driving Line channel. Our goal is to excite, entertain, and educate you on all things automotive. So if you want to come be part of our journey, please hit that subscribe button, and we hope to see you on the next video. Take care.